Hello students, this is Mrs. Wagner and I'm going to show you how to enroll in my Gizmo class. This is your assignment for today, so I want to make sure that we know how to get into the Gizmo and how to enroll. Whether you have a Gizmo account or not, doesn't matter. You're still going to enroll into my particular class. If you have a Gizmo, awesome. If you don't have a Gizmo, no big deal. We will get you enrolled. All right, so it kind of depends on if your teacher from last year enrolled you into Gizmo already. Okay, so we're going to go to the actual Gizmo site. So you're going to click on the link in Google Classroom to the Explore Learning Gizmos, and you're going to go to the Log and Enroll little section up here. So it's in the top. You're going to look for the little digital person there. We're going to click on the arrow. If you have a username and a password already in there, then most likely Google has saved that for you and you already have a Gizmo. And all you need to do is enroll in the class. Your enrollment code is in Google Classroom. So if you don't know the enrollment code, go to Google Classroom. You can copy and paste it. And you're going to, first thing is put the enrollment code into this box, enroll in class. Now, it might take you straight to the Gizmo, and that's awesome. If not, it might take you to this box that says Enroll in Class Second Hour, taught by Mrs. Wagner. If you already have an account, it's going to show up username and password, and you can just go ahead and log in. But if you don't see a username and a password there, then it's probably because you don't have an account yet. So you're going to click on the green box. I need to create an Explore Learning account. Register now to enroll. So we'll click there. Okay, if you need to create an account, this is pretty easy. You're just going to type in a name, your first name and your last name. So I'm just going to kind of make up a name here, Tommy Toolbox. But make sure it's your first name and it's your last name. Your username is going to be your first name dot last name, just like you use to enroll or to log into your Chromebook, okay? Tommy dot Toolbox, okay? The password is going to be the same for everybody. It's going to be capital PPS, so like Portage Public Schools. P as in puppy, P as in puppy, S as in school. Okay, PPS 1, 2, 3. Do that again for confirm password. PPS 1, 2, 3. That is everybody's password. And don't worry, we all have the same password. It doesn't matter. Nobody's going to want to steal your Gizmo account. Okay, and I have access to it and I can change things if I need to. You don't have any important information in there, so there's no risk. Everybody can have the same password. It's fine. Okay, and then we're going to hit submit. And that will take you to your class. You will see your Gizmo already assigned. This one's on density. So yesterday we took a little silver nut and we made some characteristics, jotted down on our data table some characteristics of our little silver nut. And I also did 3 quantitative measurements. I masked it. I did water displacement to figure out the volume and then used that to figure out density. So this is just a little bit more practice on how to do those measurements, massing and then figuring out the volume using water displacement. We're going to test to see if things sink or float. That will help us determine its density. And so all the things we're going to do today. Okay, so here is your Gizmo. It's pretty easy to maneuver. We're going to start with the ping pong ball. We're going to figure out its mass. So we're just going to pop it up here onto the scale, and it's telling us that it is 3 grams. So on your document, or if you were working in a data chart, then you would type in 3 grams for the ping pong ball for its mass. Now, the volume. So we're going to pop it into our graduated cylinder, and there it is. And we started at 400 milliliters and the water raised to 436 milliliters. So the volume of the ping pong ball is the difference between the start measurement and the ending measurement. So that would be 36. cubic centimeters. Now it says milliliters down here because graduated cylinders do measure water, and this is a solid object, and cubic centimeters measure solid objects. But the cool thing is the ratio is exactly the same. So 1 milliliter is the same as 1 cubic centimeter. Okay, so we can kind of use them interchangeably. So our little ping pong ball is 36 cubic centimeters, and that's its volume. That's how much space it takes up. So in your data chart or in your document, you would put for volume 36 cubic centimeters. Okay? All right, so now let's see if it floats or if it sinks. So we're going to place it into the beaker. Oh, and it floats. Okay, so we can determine its density right now. Okay, we know its mass, we know its volume. We learned in our lesson yesterday that the formula to figure out density is mass divided by volume. So M over V. So our mass was 3 for this little ping pong ball, and our volume was 36. So its density is super light density, 0.8 grams. So 8/100ths of a gram is its density, and that would be grams per cubic centimeters. Okay, so pretty light, and that may give you an indication of why it floats there. So let's take a look at our document, see what we have to do in our document. Okay, so here's our document, and you're going to first, look at some vocabulary. We have been looking at density, mass, matter, and volume. So our prior knowledge questions, you're going to do these before you use the Gizmo. So you don't do anything with the Gizmo in our prior knowledge questions. So list 3 objects that you think would sink in water and 3 objects that you think would float. Just pick any object that you think sinks, any objects that you think might float. Why do you think some things float and some things sink? So just answer that question. There's really no right or wrong answer. It's just kind of getting our brains going. So what do you think there? All right, our Gizmo warm-up. So now you can start using the Gizmo. So as I showed you, in the Gizmo, you're going to drag the apple. So let's see if we can pull this out. Now you're going to drag the apple to the, so we can get our ping pong ball out of the water. Yeah, let's do that. Okay, so we're going to drag the apple, it says, onto the scale. Okay, and mass is the amount of matter or stuff in an object. So what is the apple's mass? So you're going to write what you see on the scale here, which is 33 grams. Make sure you put the G there for grams. Number 2, an object's volume is the amount of space it takes up. The volume of an object can be measured by using a graduated cylinder. Observe the graduated cylinder and the blue text showing the volume of water inside the cylinder. What's the starting volume of water, just the water, in the graduated cylinder? It is 400 milliliters. So you're going to type that in there. Place the apple into the cylinder, so just like we did with the little ping pong. Okay, and it says what is the volume of the cylinder now? So it went up to 444 milliliters. So the water rises in the cylinder because it's displaced or pushed upward by the apple. And the amount of displaced water is equal to the volume of the apple. So what's the volume of the apple? Use the object volume to check. So it gives it to you right there. You can also do the subtraction. 444 minus 400. So you type that in there. Okay, now you have 3 activities. You have activity A, activity B, and activity C. So here's what you're going to do for activity A, sink or float. You're going to replace all the objects back on the shelf. Okay, be sure that the liquid in the beaker is water, so yes it is. And our investigative question is, how do mass and volume affect sinking and floating? Predict, which objects do you think will float in water? Which do you think will sink? And record your predictions below in the first column of the table. So before you do anything, you're going to predict whether you think it will sink or float. We already know the apple and the ping pong ball, right? So number 2, now you're going to experiment. Use the gizmo to find the mass and volume of each object and whether it floats or sinks. Record your results in the table. All right, analyze your results. So you're going to answer the question in number 3. So look at your data table. And can you use mass alone to predict whether an object will sink or float? Can you use volume alone to predict whether an object will sink or float? Draw your conclusions. Can you use mass and volume to predict whether an object will sink or float in water? Explain your thinking. Number 5, you're going to measure the mass and the volume of the toy soldier. So there's the toy soldier. And so you'll mass it and you'll figure out its volume. And will it sink or float? And use the gizmo to test your prediction. Activity B. How does density tell you whether an object will sink or float? So replace all the objects on the shelves. Be sure that the liquid in the beaker is water. Density is the amount of mass contained in a given volume. To find the density of an object, divide its mass by its volume. So we've been working with that. Mass divided by volume. Density is recorded in units of grams per cubic centimeters. So grams per cubic centimeters. What's the density of an object with a mass of 100 grams and a volume of 50 cubic centimeters? Okay, so this is figuring out density, and again, it is mass divided by volume. So you're going to take 100 and divide it by 50, and you will get the density of that particular object. Okay, so again, you're just going to go through and do everything that the gizmo tells you, find the mass and the volume, calculate the density, and then does it sink or float? Draw your conclusion. So the density of water, it tells you right there, and look at your data table. How can you use density of an object to predict whether it will sink or float? All right, now in the gizmo, either crown 1 or crown 2 is solid gold, but not both of them. So find the density of the gold nugget, which is gold, and then you can find the density of the other things, the crowns, and then you can determine which crown is pure gold. Activity C, how does an object behave in different liquids? So replace all of the objects on the shelf. This time you're going to explore whether eggs sink or float in different liquids. So you're going to choose water, oil, gasoline, seawater, corn syrup, and then which liquids are denser than the egg, which are less dense. Then explain your reasoning, answer the questions in number 3, and then there is a challenge. Challenge yourself. So go ahead and try that. Okay? All right, that is the gizmo. I will let you get to it and work on your assignment. You will have a couple days to work on this, and this assignment is due Monday, December 6th, and well, that's for Mrs. Wagner's class. So if other teachers' classes are watching this, your due dates are probably way different. So you'll have to talk to your teacher about your due date. Okay? All right, and for my class, each page is worth 5 points, and there are 4 pages. So this assignment is worth 20 points. Okay? Again, you'll have to check with your teacher to see how much their assignment is worth as well. All right. We'll see you later.